If you believe strength is measured in size, armor, or raw power, then you're about to be proven dangerously wrong. Because today's story isn't about the biggest warriors in the galaxy, it's about the smallest ones who refused to lose. Stay till the end, because what happens here will change how an entire galaxy defines combat. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Coming the HFY for more. The combat arena aboard the dreadnought Obsidian Claw did not simply exist. It dominated, a colossal chamber of reinforced alloy and gravity-manipulated space designed to break the arrogance of every species that stepped into it. And I, Instructor Kale Tharvorn, stood at its highest observation tier with my 4 arms folded across my armored thorax, watching the intake bay doors with the kind of impatience only someone who had trained killers for 40 cycles could feel, because I had seen everything the galaxy called deadly, from the bone-crushing might of Karath juggernauts to the lightning-fast reflexes of Varelian blade dancers, and I had learned one simple truth. Every species believed it was the apex predator until proven otherwise, and today's entrants, the humans, were no different, at least according to their files, which painted them as physically underwhelming, structurally fragile, and absurdly reliant on improvisation rather than optimized biological design, and beside me my assistant Xyrix, a thin, multi-eyed analyst whose neural implants flickered with nervous data streams, shifted uneasily as he whispered, "Instructor, their psychological readings are inconsistent," and I let out a low clicking sound of disinterest, because inconsistency usually meant weakness, hesitation, unpredictability without discipline, the kind of trait that got soldiers killed, not remembered. And then the doors opened with a deep mechanical hiss, and the humans stepped in. 3 of them, smaller than most recruits, unarmored except for minimal tactical gear, their posture relaxed in a way that bordered on disrespect. And yet there was something else there too, something harder to quantify, something that made the air feel subtly different, and the one in front, a man named Caleb Rook, stepped forward with a half-smile that suggested he found the entire situation mildly amusing. "Instructor, we're here for evaluation," he said, as if this wasn't a proving ground designed to expose weakness, and I leaned forward slightly, studying them, noting the way their eyes moved, constantly scanning, calculating, never still, and I gestured toward the arena floor below. "You will face standard coalition fighters. Fail, and you will be reassigned to non-combat roles." And the second human, a broader one named Marcus Hale, cracked his knuckles casually, replying, "Fair enough," while the third, a woman named Aya Tanaka, said nothing, her expression calm, almost detached, as if she had already seen how this would end, and that unsettled me more than I cared to admit, and the first match began immediately. A towering Bracker enforcer named Threx stepping into the arena, his mass alone enough to crush most opponents through sheer momentum, and Caleb walked out to meet him, rolling his shoulders as if preparing for a casual exercise rather than a fight, and when Threx charged, it was like watching a landslide given intent, unstoppable, overwhelming. But Caleb didn't meet force with force. He stepped aside at the last possible moment, pivoted, redirected, his movements efficient, almost minimal, and before Threx could adjust, Caleb struck precise points along the giant's structure, joints, balance, centers, leverage points, turning the brute's own strength against him, and within seconds the massive enforcer was on the ground, stunned and disarmed, and the silence that followed was heavy, because that wasn't supposed to happen. Not like that, not so cleanly, and before I could process it fully, the second match began, Marcus facing a Varelian speed specialist whose reflexes operated at near predictive levels, and the difference was immediate, the alien moving like a blur, strikes coming from angles that should have been impossible to counter. But Marcus didn't chase speed, he disrupted it, stepping into the flow, forcing collisions, controlling space rather than reacting to it, absorbing minor hits to create openings, using his own body as both weapon and shield, and it was messy compared to Caleb's precision, but it worked, brutally effective, and soon the Varelian was pinned, unable to move without risking structural damage, and I felt something unfamiliar begin to settle in my mind, not disbelief, but recalibration, because this wasn't luck, this was method. And then came the final match. Aya stepping into the arena against a heavily armored Draxian whose plating had never been breached in recorded training scenarios, and for a moment they simply circled each other, silent stretching, tension building, and then the Draxian struck, a barrage of heavy, calculated blows designed to overwhelm, and I moved through them like water, not faster, not stronger, but more efficient, every motion deliberate, every step purposeful, until she found her moment, planted her stance, and delivered a single strike that echoed through the arena like a shockwave, and the result was immediate, a fracture spreading across the Draxian's armor, not shattering it completely, but enough to force a halt, enough to prove vulnerability where none had existed before, and she stepped back, calm as ever, flexing her hand slightly as if testing for damage, and that was when I understood, truly understood, that what we were witnessing wasn't raw strength or speed, but something far more dangerous. A system, a discipline, a science built over generations of conflict, refined, not by biology but by necessity, and I descended to the arena floor myself, unable to remain an observer any longer. "Where did you learn this?" I demanded, my voice carrying across the chamber, and Caleb shrugged lightly. "Our world isn't exactly peaceful," he said. "We had to figure out how to survive," and Marcus added, "We fight smarter because we have to," while Aya simply said, "We study weakness," and that answer lingered, echoing in my thoughts, because it explained everything, and I made my decision then, a test beyond standard protocol, a full-scale combat simulation, 3 humans against an entire squad of elite coalition fighters, designed not to test skill, but endurance, adaptability, and coordination under pressure. And when the simulation began, chaos erupted, but it was controlled chaos, the humans moving like parts of a single organism, communicating without words, anticipating each other's actions with uncanny precision, using the environment, exploiting blind spots, turning every advantage the opposing squad had into a liability, and one by one the coalition fighters fell, not defeated through brute force, but outmaneuvered, outthought, and when the simulation ended in under 5 minutes, I stood there in silence, the weight of realization settling heavily, because everything I had believed about combat hierarchy, about what made a species dangerous, had just been rewritten in front of me, and as the humans helped their opponents to their feet, already discussing improvements, analyzing mistakes, planning adjustments, I turned to Xyrix and spoke slowly, deliberately. "Record this and send it to command. Humans are not physically superior, but that is irrelevant. They compensate with technique, adaptability, and a refusal to accept limitation," and I paused, watching them, feeling something close to respect for the first time in many cycles. If the galaxy wishes to understand real combat, it must study them, and as the humans exited the arena, leaving behind not destruction but a quiet, undeniable shift in perception, I realized that the most dangerous predator in the universe was not the one with the strongest body or the fastest reflexes, but the one who looked at its own weakness and turned it into a weapon.